Certain performers defy every label, from category to character type. They are chameleons, impossible to pin down. Oscar Isaac belongs to this rare breed. He is the kind of presence that turns up the heat the moment he steps into frame. It is not about being flashy. It is that every twitch suggests a brand new identity. Think of him as a world-traveling talent, equally comfortable on a theater stage, in a massive desert epic, or a gritty crime drama. His roles undergo total transformations, changing their ethics, their history, and even their physical nature. Isaac does more than just act out a script. He constructs people from the ground up, shaping their gait and gaze while keeping his methods a total mystery. The effort is invisible, only the soul remains. This was sadly most evident in the Star Wars films. When the first movie hit theaters, Poe Dameron arrived with a spark of cool rebellion, resembling a sharper, better-groomed version of a classic space rogue. The man radiated confidence, whether flying a starfighter or just standing there. His chemistry with Finn felt ancient and deep. Isaac made that pilot feel like the heart of the story. He provided a vital spark in a franchise full of heavy lore. Yet, that initial brilliance eventually faded into the background. By the second film, Poe was reduced to a reckless hothead. By the third installment, he was just running errands and chasing ghosts. The series gave him plenty of minutes on screen, but zero depth for his journey. Isaac fought to keep the guy real, finding tiny windows for honesty. A quick grin or a heavy look hinted at a complex man the writing ignored. His final moment feels like a literal shrug rather than a grand finale. He poured everything into a blockbuster that eventually forgot why he was there. Now, consider Inside Llewyn Davis. This was the turning point where he stopped being a great supporting player and became a lead who could turn agony into art. He portrays Llewyn as a guy teetering on the edge of a total breakdown. He is a musician who is not just out of cash, but out of spirit. You can see the exhaustion in his eyes and feel the weight of his quiet moments. He does not complain, he just survives. The Coen brothers put him in a world defined by coldness. Between the freezing weather and a stray cat, Isaac responds with a raw, lived-in sense of hopelessness. His singing is gritty and real, sounding like the lonely echo in a dive bar at 2 in the morning. You truly believe he has crashed on every sofa in the city. The character is hard to love, yet Isaac never tries to make him softer. He plays him like someone who is fundamentally allergic to optimism, and it is brilliant. There is a haunting moment on a snowy road where he just watches life pass him by. It is not some big dramatic scene. It is quiet, but Isaac pulls such profound sorrow out of the ordinary that it puts other actors to shame. Let us pivot from a broken musician to a fractured tech mogul. Ex Machina let him showcase a terrifying new kind of focus. He is sleek, quiet, and lethal. As Nathan Bateman, he is a muscular hermit with a brilliant mind and an ego so massive it has its own gravity. Isaac treats human lives like ingredients for a fancy drink. He dances, he manipulates, and he owns every square inch of the room. The genius lies in how effortless it feels. Nathan does not need to yell to be the boss. In fact, his silence is when you should really start to panic. His charm is addictive, but Isaac ensures it never feels safe. You find yourself laughing along, only to feel a wave of regret 5 minutes later. By the time things turn bloody, you realize he has been pulling your strings just as much as his robots. Isaac makes Nathan a man you hate to love. Then we have A Most Violent Year, a film that feels like a gritty cousin to the great mob epics set in 1980s New York. He plays Abel Morales, a businessman trying to stay ethical in a town that devours men like him. His stillness is incredible. Isaac avoids any obvious displays of stress. He lets the silence do the heavy lifting. His suits are like pieces of armor, and every line sounds like a deadly promise whispered through gritted teeth. He can terrify someone without raising his voice once. He portrays Abel as a man of ironclad principles, someone who would rather go down fighting than live on his knees. You believe every bit of it. Every time he locks eyes with someone, it feels like a high-stakes game of chicken. His acting here is both graceful and brutal, showing he can be lethal without a single drop of gore. All he needs is a long corridor, a cold look, and one final warning. If you want grand scale, look at Dune, where he embodies Duke Leto Atreides. He is a man striving for honor in a world that views kindness as a fatal flaw. Amidst the chaos of massive sand creatures and ancient destinies, Oscar brings a human touch to the screen. He portrays Leto as a commander primarily, yet his devotion to his boy, Paul, remains the true heartbeat of his performance. Observe how he absorbs every word and uses silence to his advantage. He walks a tightrope between political tact and pure terror, layering every scene with a quiet, heavy grief. Though he senses the end is near, he refuses to flinch. That stoic bravery, guiding his people while knowing their fate is sealed, is exactly why his portrayal hits so hard. It works because he never tries to outshine the spectacle. He simply exists within the storm, his eyes telling 1,000 stories. Every talk with Paul and every look at Lady Jessica is thick with unspoken meaning. Although Leto leaves the story early, Isaac makes such an impression that his ghost haunts the rest of the film. The movie feels emptier once he is gone. In The Bourne Legacy, he has a tiny role, yet he makes it count. Playing a secret agent known as Number 3, Isaac crafts a whole life story just through his body language. He is cold and precise, yet he carries the flickers of a man who knows he is just another tool to be tossed away. There are no big speeches, just a deep-seated tension reflecting years of brainwashing. In a system built to kill the ego, Isaac makes the man feel tragically real. His short stint is a grim reminder of a world that treats human beings like hardware to be used and discarded. He exits quickly, but leaves behind a sense of soul that characters with 10 times the lines usually lack. Finally, let us look at Moon Knight, a performance that should have been a complete disaster on paper. Juggling multiple voices and personas within the Marvel machine, Isaac brings the weight of a classic play. He fully inhabits the fractured spirits of Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. His body language shifts naturally to fit each ego. Mark moves with the rigidness of a veteran, while Stephen stumbles around like a lost museum worker. His expressions change more frequently than the camera angles. The performance works because he treats the mental struggle with total sincerity instead of mockery. He portrays psychological detachment as a genuine tragedy rather than a plot device. A scene where Stephen witnesses Mark's past trauma is crushing because Isaac plays both parts. He is basically playing against his own reflection and making us weep. That captures the entire vibe of the chapter. Even the combat feels deeply personal, as if the fighting represents a clash of identities rather than standard movie violence. The show reaches its peak when these two personalities actually speak to one another. Nailing that internal dialogue is an incredibly difficult task, yet he turns every conversation into a high-stakes counseling session on the verge of disaster. His acting is far beyond layered, it is meticulously built. In the film The Card Counter, he plays William Tell, a man drifting through life trying to stay invisible despite being the center of attention. Paul Schrader penned the character as a modern relative to the lead and Taxi Driver, and Isaac delivers a silent, haunting intensity. Tell seems less focused on finding forgiveness than he is on just keeping his life from unraveling. His voice is ghostly, and his gambling feels like a desperate grab for order. In one haunting moment, he drapes a cheap room in pale fabric to insulate his shame, and while his mouth stays shut, his gaze tells a devastating story. It is a claustrophobic performance rather than a flashy one, making self-hatred feel like a daily routine. The pressure never quite explodes, which is the whole point. He plays the part like a man resigned to an eternal sentence. Instead of begging for pity, he simply invites us to witness the reality of an endless spiritual limbo. Regarding Annihilation, his take on Kane is a study in complete disconnection. He avoids playing the character as a man, simply hiding secrets. Instead, he looks like a person who's been entirely replaced. After returning from the Shimmer, he is just a phantom wearing a husband's skin. Initially, he is distant, yet polite, offering empty smiles as if he has already forgotten the truth. Even the simple act of drinking water feels like an existential crisis. Later, through flashbacks, he reveals the original version of Kane. He was a brave soldier, though one filled with deep conflict and doubt. Oscar navigates two different worlds with a subtle sadness, much like his work in Moon Knight, leaving the truth up for debate. He manages to play two people simultaneously without ever making it obvious. The true horror of that film is not the monsters, but the loss of a consistent identity. He embodies that void with terrifying precision. His character is barely present, yet his absence feels like a loud cry in every shot. The performance lingers because it offers no easy explanations. In Operation Finale, he takes on a real-life figure. He plays Peter Malkin, the Mossad operative who led the hunt for Adolf Eichmann. Here, He presents determination as a low, steady flame. He skips the obvious award-seeking moments and lets humanity show through small, quiet gestures. During a tense questioning, his face reveals a deep struggle between raw loathing and the need for fairness. This isn't just about conflicting beliefs, it's a war within his soul. This conflict feels deeply intimate in his hands. He builds pressure through what he leaves unsaid, masterfully avoiding a typical outburst. Mastering that level of self-control is a rare gift, and he wields it with surgical precision. Then there is his turn in the latest Spider-Man sequel, where he finally gets the spotlight he deserves. The film provides him with the room and complexity to truly inhabit the character in 3 dimensions. Playing Miguel O'Hara, the hero of the year 2099, he becomes more than just another web-slinger. He embodies the crushing burden of infinite realities squeezed into a single uniform. Miguel has no charm or witty one-liners. He is not the friendly hero from your neighborhood. Instead, he is driven by a desperate sense of urgency. He embraces that ferocity completely. His voice does not tell jokes, it only strains under immense pressure. The character's journey is built on a very practical kind of grief. For him, destiny isn't a theory, it is an unbreakable law. There is a heartbreaking quality to his obsession with order, portraying it as a desperate shield rather than an ego boost. He is the only version of the hero who sees the mission as a lethal necessity rather than a noble calling. When Miles defies him, he reacts like a man watching his life's work go up in flames. Even in animation, his work carries the weight of a man suppressing intense rage and sorrow. The artists gave the character claws, but the actor gave him a soul. In a movie overflowing with neon movement, he provides the necessary stillness. He acts as the gravity that pulls the audience back to earth, using a voice that carries sharp authority without losing its humanity. His delivery sounds like a mix of a military briefing and a desperate confession. He does not ask for understanding, he demands obedience. Yet, in the quiet moments between his commands, you can feel something within him breaking. His acting tells the story even without the explicit history. The performance itself is the backstory, and it deepens the movie's core ethical question. What are we willing to give up to keep things the way they are? Within the hypermasculine world of Triple Frontier, he manages to inject genuine emotion. His portrayal of Santiago Garcia reveals a man desperately clinging to a sense of purpose that no longer exists. He rallies his old squad like a desperate coach, though his eyes suggest he secretly wants them to stay home. When the plan fails, he remains eerily calm. He allows the pressure to build until the audience feels the strain themselves. Amidst a narrative of falling dominoes, he stands as the eye of the storm, embodying remorse and quietude. This proves he doesn't just possess variety, he has true depth. He does not treat roles as costumes to put on. He dissects them and lives inside them, creating people who feel entirely authentic. What truly sets him apart from his peers is his complete lack of interest in playing the same part twice. He jumps from indie darlings to massive franchises, or from a gentle musician to a lethal killer, without a hint of his previous roles lingering. Every person he plays moves to a fresh beat and carries themselves differently. Filmmakers rave about his cooperative spirit and his knack for hitting the mark without stealing the spotlight. Fellow actors often mention how he truly hears them on set, staying locked into the scene at all times. That level of talent is rare. While some can lose themselves in one part, he manages to vanish into 30 different lives while making each one feel permanent. He isn't hunting fame, he's creating subtle, powerful ripples that define a true icon.